I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry. 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 I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, okay?
Hey everybody, welcome back to I'm Sorry, Okay? A podcast where we are watching so much Degrassi. I'm Mary, here with Paul and LD. This week we watched Season 1, Episode 11 of Degrassi Junior High, It's Late. This episode was written by Jan Moore, directed by Kit Hood, and originally aired on March 29th, 1987. In this episode, Spike agonizes over the possibility that she's pregnant. Arthur gives Yick romantic counseling.
Hell yeah, he does.
So apparently this episode was probably named after the song It's Late by Queen.
I read that.
Oh.
I have a couple of facts about this episode before launching into it, I think. So this episode won an Emmy for children's programming, which I think is awesome because it was really early on in Degrassi's run.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the first kind of instance of teen pregnancy in Degrassi, but it was also the first in a drama that had like a contemporary setting in the history of television. So I think there had been like teen pregnancies like maybe in period dramas or something like that, but this was the first time where it was set right now and they were dealing with teen pregnancy right now.
That's cool.
So it took until 87
yes.
for that to happen.
Yes.
Woof.
And then also a lot of fans thought that the actress Amanda Steptoe, who played Spike, was pregnant in real life, but she wasn't. And then in an interview sometime, I think it was in the 90s, she was just like, I hadn't even had sex yet. And everyone was like writing me letters, like thinking I was pregnant. So I think a lot of people were looking to
were
her
they
for
supportive? Yeah, was it like people reaching out in a supportive way or like a critical way?
I'm not totally sure, but I did see one interview with her where she was talking about the fact that she got lots of letters being like, I'm pregnant, what do I do? So people really thinking that she was going through that in real life and she wasn't.
But also just like shows how underrepresented that experience is, that other teenagers were just like kind of desperate for somebody to relate to or talk to, or that was like going through a similar thing as them.
Well, she did a good job. I think she represented the character really well, and so I could see why someone would connect to that, especially in the 80s when you have probably very little access to information of any kind.
Well, I think because Degrassi was a show that people knew that they were doing their own hair and makeup, those were their own clothes, and I think there was talk of there being input into characters' arcs from the actors. I think maybe people did just assume that this is what was going on with her in real life. But also, this is only Spike's second episode where she has like a speaking part. We'd seen her in the background of stuff, but this is her sort
debut, kind of.
Yeah, and it's like the womb that launched 1,000 episodes.
I was really surprised that her pregnancy was so early on because it's like responsible for the entirety of the next generation, or at least the beginning of the next generation.
Well, yeah. So I know in this episode that they don't discuss what she decides, and so I wasn't sure if we were going to discuss like spoilers or whatever, but I feel like anyone who knows that it rebooted with the next generation knows that it's Spike's daughter that sort of kicks off the next generation. And by the way, they named her Emma because they had won the Emmy. That is why they named the baby Emma.
Incredible.
Truly. I love to give facts. I have so many more through this episode. Like, I really went down about 45 minutes in total of reading about the history of the at-home pregnancy test.
But yeah, I guess like just because I started watching Degrassi with the next generation, coming back and watching these episodes, it just was really surprising that it was just like, oh, Spike's pregnant like that soon. So I don't know, kind of cool, I guess.
I think I had also remembered that she was, or I misremembered that she was older. I didn't realize she was in 8th grade
She's 14.
Yeah, she's 14. I think in my head, she was maybe 15 or 16, which is, I think, the age that's usually portrayed for teen moms.
Yeah. Degrassi goes there.
Yeah, so I actually wrote that in my notes this week, and for the next episode that we'll be talking about next week, I wrote that, like, this is when we've kind of gotten over a lot of the fluff and the sort of expository plot lines of season 1, and we're really starting to get into it goes there territory. Right?
Not quite 100% intense yet, but it is going there.
This episode opens with a party at Lucy's house. Lucy is hosting a chill-ass party. They're playing records and slow dancing. Someone's eating popcorn. There's snacks everywhere. Good lighting, chill vibes. Joey walks by and says, "Hey, Lucy, it's a great party." And it is very true. And then Joey and Wheels are kind of gossiping about how Lucy's parents are never around. They could never throw a party like this because their parents are home. And then Joey sees Shane and Spike and asks Shane if they can all share.
Yeah, he does do that.
It's weird.
It's legitimately disgusting. I was also going to say, do you remember in the earlier bit of the season where Melanie talks about what she envisioned parties were going to be like? And she includes potato chips.
Yeah. I was just about to say, then Joey says, let's go over there and pick up some chips. And then
Sure.
Spike and Shane go into a bedroom and start getting cozy.
Ooh.
You're totally right. This is exactly the kind of party that Melanie described. Is Melanie there? Is she there
No,
dancing with someone? I don't think we saw her.
She's in grade 7, so I'm assuming she was not invited to this. And also, you don't want to invite Melanie
Good
because
call.
she's going to show up with Kathleen.
Mm-hmm.
And no one
That's
wants that
true.
narc at their party.
No one wants a narc who's going to judge everybody, but also potentially take poppers.
Oh, yeah. New Zealand zappers. I would
Zappers.
love to see her on poppers.
Yeah, I love Joey's vibe at this party. He's just like, he's kind of desperately like wanting to interact with girls, but he has no idea how to
clueless.
actually do that.
Absolutely.
Zero game. And it's something I love about him.
I got to give a quick shout out to the Degrassi Junior High favorite band, W&L Heartbeats Unlimited, who are yet again spinning at Lucy's party. We first heard from them because of DJ Radich at season 1, episode 2, The Big Dance. Yes, the same song.
It's a Degrassi hit.
Yes, so they are jamming. I mean, this song kicks ass. They're all feeling it. So we were watching this, and I was like, why do I recognize this song? Like, what is this? And then I went back to my notes for season 1, episode 2, and yes, it is Dancing on the Screen.
I did not notice whatsoever. I love that in the Degrassi universe, all the bands that come out of Degrassi only ever have one song. And also apparently the bands they listen to also only have one song.
It just makes me want to know what happened to this band and why. I don't know.
Well, I mean, the song always gets the teens dancing, so...
Yeah. A classique.
All right. Was there anything else happening at this party that I missed? Other than the snacks, the dancing, there was some good looks. Joey was wearing a beret. In the next scene, Spike's mom is dropping her off at school and is going pretty hard on nagging her. But she says when Spike's late, it makes her mom late for work, and it's not cool for her clients. Spike's mom is a hairstylist. And Spike's mom also says that she is thoroughly unpleasant to be around these days. She never helps out around the house. And, you know, it's not easy raising her by herself. A little cooperation would make things a whole lot better for both of us.
A lot of discussion on things being late. Do you think this episode is called It's Late because Spike keeps running late to class?
There's just a lot of things that are late for Spike right now.
I also love how much expository dialogue just happened in this one scene in the car. We now know everything we need to know for the rest of the episode about Spike's relationship with her mom.
But it was
so
like
clear.
the way that her mom is like nagging her is so real. Like the way that they fit it all in together is like so perfect. And we actually see later her mom is like super nice and like, you know, like a really
She was a little
just like
stressed.
a chill person. But you can see how like, I don't know if y'all ever had this experience, but like when I would miss the bus and then my mom would have to drive me to school, she'd be real salty about it. Because it makes you late for work and like it's a hassle.
Yeah,
Those dang
also the
teens.
kind of like piling on of more and more stuff that they're annoyed about is, I think, a very real mom vibe.
Mm-hmm.
That
what I
and
mean?
right, like she's kind of keeping a list, but it's also like all of these things seem like they're just like not like Spike at all. So her mom is kind of like what's going on, but at this point she's like irritated by it because it's like affecting her life too.
I felt like Spike's mom kind of looks like adult Spike in this scene too.
They do kind of look alike. They look enough alike.
I'm giving it a like 6 out of 10.
Sure.
So Spike is late for class, and Raditch, of course, calls her out. He says it's the second time this week, and it's disappointing when such a good student sets such a bad example.
Motherfucker gets 3 zings in.
Seriously.
Like, bro, we get it.
He's still out here thinking that shaming kids is helpful to their development.
The only thing he's missing is like slapping her wrist with a ruler.
Damn.
Yeah, it's
True.
pretty embarrassing, especially if she is a good student. It's just like, why are you like coming hard on someone who's just like late for school? Like clearly anything could be going on.
Dude, also, she could be late because her mom was running late.
Yeah, maybe
doesn't
it's a reverse lateness situation.
It doesn't have to be her fault. And obviously, we know that's not the case, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
surely if he's actually concerned, they can talk about this after class.
Like, bro,
Exactly.
the episode is called It's Late. Get with the program.
Yeah.
Read the room, Raditch.
Bro.
Seriously. So Spike just kind of quietly says, sorry. And then she looks over at Shane, who smiles at her, but she just looks away.
Mm-mm.
I also wanted to note that Spike is wearing my look of the week.
Ooh, tell us more.
Well, this is an outfit that I have basically worn. It's like a gray button down, like a green and blue kind of plaid blazer. And then she has a brooch like in the center of her collared shirt. She looks good.
Yes.
I could see you wearing that. I think you've had like the chains that go across like a cardigan's collar or like
Mhm.
you've
I
had
have
that kind
I
of
have
stuff, right?
something like that, and then sometimes I'll also wear like matching pins on like either collar.
Oh, I'm into that.
I love a pin in an unexpected place.
How unexpected. If you would like to see Mary's look of the week, check out our Instagram or our Twitter. We are just at I'm sorry, okay pod. That's okay spelled OKAY. We are trying to upload all of our looks of the week, our utilitarian props of the week, and really any stray observations that we have. So give us a little follow.
Bing.
After class, both the twins and Shane try to talk to Spike, but she's just got an attitude with everyone. And she just kind of storms off. She's not really. So we can clearly see that like she's acting different. It's not just her mom. It's also her friends. It's also Shane. She's got something going on and she's not really talking about it with anyone. And she's trying to push everyone away. with her salty attitude.
She's crabby as heck.
Yes. So in the next scene, Melanie is telling Kathleen how she's trying to find a good romance, or at least a good hickey. Because if you've got a hickey, you've got a boyfriend. And if you've got a boyfriend, you can go on dates.
Yes.
I'm actually team Kathleen on this one. Hickeys are disgusting. And even in middle school and high school, when it was kind of like a thing, still hated it.
Yeah, marking your partner physically seems off. But I do like that Melanie has moved on from drugs to wanting to try a hickey.
Melanie's into it. Good for her, I guess.
She's very adventurous. You know, she's
Yeah.
just trying to have new experiences.
Honestly, good for her. I wonder what dangers her mom warned her about with hickeys.
About hickeys.
You get a
It'll be
hickey, it could
permanent.
get-
It'll never go away. It could get infected. So Yick and Arthur, Melanie and Kathleen walk by. Yick and Arthur are at Yick's locker. And Yick says a little hi to Melanie that Arthur is immediately like, "You like Melanie? You should ask her out." Which is really cute that he can tell just by the way that Yick said hi that he like has a little crush.
They're buddies.
And then Yick says she might say no. And that's why he doesn't want to ask her out.
I think that's a really accurate bit of writing, because I don't know anybody in middle school who wasn't afraid that someone was going to reject them if they asked them out.
Of course, that's why you don't want to like ever talk to somebody that you're interested in. They might say no and or hate you.
Of course. And then laugh at you with all of their friends.
Yes.
Mhm.
Or cyberbully you. I don't know. I'm just like thinking about all the possibilities.
Depends on what era you're in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did think it was really cute that Arthur could just immediately tell that Yick had a crush on Melanie from the way that he said hi. Or maybe even just because he said hi. I don't know if we really see Yick talking to any girls.
Thinking about the episode now, I feel like he does have the little like heart eyes emoji like vibe going.
Yes.
It seemed,
Definitely.
I think it's pretty obvious.
It's really cute. Okay.
Adorable.
So in the next scene, the twins find Spike in the girls' bathroom and ask what's going on. And she tells them her period is way late. One of the twins is like, "Well, you can't be pregnant if you haven't had sex." And then they ask if she's had sex with Shane. And she doesn't really answer, but she just kind of confirms that she has by like looking really bummed out.
When the twins are just like, well, you can't be pregnant unless you've had sex. It's just like, well, obviously she's had sex then. She wouldn't be worrying about her late period if she was like, what if it's PCOS or endometriosis? Like, she's 14. Obviously, she's worried she's pregnant for a reason.
I think that the twins are just surprised that it's like, so we haven't really seen them all hanging out together, but it's sort of implied that they're good friends. And so I think that they're just supposed to be like surprised that she's had sex and she didn't even tell them. But it is kind of like they're asking like kind of dumb questions, but I think they're just like really shocked. There's a lot of shocked reactions in this episode.
I mean, it is surprising when you're 14 and you know somebody who's had sex. Like I didn't really know anybody when I was in middle school who was having sex.
Shit was not on my radar at all.
Right? And like
Absolutely not.
and definitely like there were no teen pregnancies at my middle school.
I just wouldn't have known. If there were, I would have. That's how far off my radar it was. I just wouldn't have. We were talking about like comics, like professional wrestling and The Simpsons. That was like my existence. Oh, and pizza.
That's all the stuff you talk about now.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think the other thing with Spike and Shane having sex is that they did have sex at a party where everyone saw them go into a room together. And I didn't mention this initially, but after they go into the room together, when the twins are getting ready to leave the party, they go to try to open the door to the room, but it's locked.
Oh,
So so everyone is kind of aware that they were in there together, but nobody really knows what's happened between them. And Spike hasn't told her friends yet. And so, yeah, so it's all leading to like a lot of sort of confusion about the situation. So now we get back to Arthur and Yick. Arthur says he's going to help Yick with Melanie. Yick asks what he knows about girls, and Arthur is like, when you have a sister like mine, you learn fast.
Don't even know what that would be referring to. Like, there's nothing that he knows about Stephanie that would make him an expert in how to ask out a girl.
No, but I did have a thought that there's a lot of eavesdropping among this group of children, and so perhaps he has overheard Melanie talking to her girlfriends about things that girls like. I don't know. That was my only thought, but it doesn't actually make any sense at all.
I mean, Melanie is just like walking the halls of Degrassi Junior High reading her horoscope out loud.
Yeah, I think that Arthur is just like observant, or maybe he got like a brochure from his mom or something.
That sounds more accurate.
Ooh,
How to talk to
a
girls.
brochure.
Mama K coming through with more educational brochures about stuff she should just be talking to her kids about.
I was kind of surprised no one gave Spike a brochure in this episode.
Damn.
Right? There are so many
It might have been
moments.
actually helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Arthur's first bit of advice.
The thing about girls is you have to get them in the right mood.
Which I think is true.
Yeah.
It's kind of true. Like,
I guess for me, I guess I'm just wondering, how does Yick put someone in the right mood to be asked out?
Repetitious failure?
yeah,
Like-
repetitious failure, maybe something basketball related.
Right? Like, this is the thing. Like, I'm not sure it's the best advice. It's like fine, but
It's pretty boilerplate.
I think that it's like, it's okay advice that they don't have any idea how to tell if a girl might be in the right mood or not.
yes.
So it's perhaps good advice for somebody else. Back in the girls' bathroom, the girls are asking how Spike feels, if she has morning sickness. One of the twins says, you can't get pregnant if it's the first time. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, everybody who also knows that you can get pregnant in a jacuzzi or from a toilet seat, or you can't get pregnant if you're standing up, they also know that you can't get pregnant on your first time.
It's science.
It's just not fair.
I just wrote sex ed in Canada in the late 80s seems like maybe it's not super good.
Look, there's a pamphlet, all right?
No pamphlet to be found.
Maybe that's the problem, is that there is no pamphlet. So these are all just like, like you can't get pregnant if it's the first time is sort of the stand-in for bad kind of myths around sexual activity that kids sort of fill in the absence of like having any real knowledge about it. The twins also say, sometimes periods are irregular, and then they comfort her. And it's actually very sweet. Like, we're kind of making fun of the scene, but the twins are actually like, they're pretty like kind and like caring towards Spike. They're trying to be there for her. They're trying to help her like talk through this. And from the moment they find out, they're like all about supporting her. So we'll kind of see them come back up like throughout the episode.
Yeah, I love that they're not approaching this with any kind of judgment. No one's called her a slut. No one's been like, I can't believe you guys did it. There's been no kind of like incredulous reaction. Like the twins are just there for her. They're her friend. They're supportive. I just said they're her friend. Like they are one collective.
I mean,
unit.
sometimes it feels like it. When no one says their name in a scene, I don't know. I still don't know who is who.
I only know who is who when one of them says something kind of prude and the other one disagrees. I'm like, oh, the uptight one is Heather. And Erica is the one who's like sexually
Erica's
liberated.
more chill.
Yeah.
Erica's sexually liberated.
I don't know, man. But like
It's a good way to tell them apart.
but I like that no one's been like, oh, Spike, you didn't. You know what I mean? Like they're just like, oh, you think you
Right.
might be pregnant? Okay, well let's get to the bottom of this.
Right, and they're at this point they're trying to be like, no, like you're probably not pregnant, like periods are irregular. It's all of this sort of like rationalization, that like women or like young women might go through when they do miss their period, and they start kind of like thinking through the possibilities. And so at this stage they're kind of with her and being like, no, it can't be that bad. They're trying to be like, don't worry, it's not going to be that bad. At least like initially that's their kind of reaction. So after school, Spike goes to her mom's salon, and her mom immediately apologizes for being snappy that morning. This is how we know that they actually have a really good relationship, and that was just kind of a fight between them, but doesn't seem representative of their general relationship with each other.
Something that we talked about a few episodes ago was that when Spike was kind of nagging LD a little bit, but then got more information about why she wasn't doing the project, she also immediately apologized. So obviously, like, Spike's mom is modeling this kind of generous, good behavior and like how to apologize when you're wrong.
She learned it from her mama. So
I love that that's the second time you've said something like that.
The first time I said she got it from her daddy, and you did not like it.
Hated it both times equally.
Well, I'll try to keep it going just for you. So her mom is cutting a client's hair, and they're talking about someone who is pregnant with their 7th child.
Apparently, they have a very nice Mormon friend.
Yes, they have some nice Mormon friend. They're like, she must love being a mom. And I was like, that could be the situation, or it could be different, but we won't get into that because we don't know. So Spike says that some friends of hers were talking, and someone said you couldn't get pregnant the first time you have sex. And then her mom says, actually, 1 in 5 girls gets pregnant the first time they have sex. I don't know where she got that statistic, perhaps in her own brochure. Yeah,
her mom is just right there with the statistics. I have some statistics, by the way.
Okay.
Basically, I wanted to look up statistics about teen motherhood, and basically, like, are you more likely to be a teen mom if you had a teen mom? So because her mom talks in this scene about how she had Spike when she was 17. So I decided to do a little bit of research, and apparently teenage girls with a mom who was a teen mom are 1.57 times more likely to be a teen mom. However, a teenage girl with a sister who's a teen mom is 3.38 times more likely to also be a teen mom. But the number decreases if the sisters don't get along. So basically, I think that throughout this episode, maybe we can see that Spike's mom is kind of trying to prevent the cycle of teen motherhood. Because if she knows that statistic, she probably knows other statistics.
Right. Yeah. So, and yeah, like you said, her mom mentions that she was 17 when she had Spike, and she had dreams of going to university, but had to leave school to go to work. And then her client says, well, you can be sure that Spike is going to university.
And then Spike has a little cry. She's like sweeping up the hair and in the salon, and then she kind of goes behind a little partition wall and has a little cry. And I will be honest, my first job that I ever had was in a salon sweeping up the hair, and I too went behind a partition to have a little cry.
Aw.
It's not that hard of a job.
So it felt, but this felt real to you.
This felt really real. Can confirm this is a real life scenario.
All right. So back at school, Yick is practicing complimenting Melanie by telling Arthur, your eyes are so blue, they remind me of swimming pools. And then Snake and a friend overhear them and act extremely homophobic.
Yeah.
I guess the less we say about this, the better.
Yeah, let's move on past it.
But before we do, I have to point out that Yick is wearing my look of the week. This very simple combination of a unbuttoned polo and some light denim jeans. I love it.
This
I feel
is
like
a
I've
very
worn this
good
outfit.
look. You have worn
Yeah.
this outfit.
But I like that we both just chose outfits that we have worn ourselves.
These aren't like, I mean, this isn't a particularly flashy outfit.
Sometimes an amazing outfit is understated and minimalist.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
everyone needs like a day-to-day look. They can't all be, going out look.
They can't
That would
all
be
be. I was gonna say they can't all be Steph's hot
Hot pink date
hot
leggings.
pants. Yeah, with her like sheer.
With her little fairy princess tulle skirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Arthur says she can't say no after a compliment, which, Arthur's advice is getting a little bit like into the toxic masculinity territory. I feel like she can't say no after a compliment. Also, I don't know that it's specifically a compliment to tell someone that their eyes remind you of swimming pools. Swimming pools aren't like specifically beautiful or romantic.
No.
He's trying. I don't know.
Like the ocean, at least.
So Yick says he feels kind of weird, but he goes for it, and he walks up to Melanie and Kathleen, and then he accidentally says, "Your eyes are so blue, they seem like pimming swools." And Melanie and Kathleen laugh. So this is
Okay.
basically the worst possible outcome for complimenting someone you have a crush on, is that they and their friend laugh.
Horribly.
But
And
deservedly,
also,
kind of.
no way. First of all, this is so mean. Second of all, surely you know what he's trying to say or like trying to do here. Like he's coming up to you, like trying to give you a compliment. Maybe he messed it up a little bit. Try to be a little bit more understanding. And then, can I just say, English is not Yick's first language. Like,
I think it's more of a nerves thing, but I do get
Of
what you're
course.
saying where, it could just, he just messes up, He
yeah,
messes
he's
up
nervous,
everything.
but
He's
I'm just
nervous.
saying, like, maybe let's not laugh at the kid who's like nervously trying to ask you out in not his native language.
I don't know. I had to hold back the laughter when Mary was reading it back.
It's mean
I
to
feel
laugh
like-
at his,
I
in
feel
his
like
face. They're so
a giggle
Yeah,
would
dude.
have been appropriate. Like, you can kind of laugh a little bit. Just, it's natural if someone just messes up what they're saying, but they're excessive because they keep being like, pimming swools, ha ha ha, pimming swools, what's that? So I think that they, like, a small laugh is permissible, but they go a little too hard laughing at Yick here.
Yeah, and then he kind of storms off because he's really embarrassed, and on his way calls Arthur a broomhead.
Oh, has it been a couple episodes since we've gotten a broomhead?
It's been a little bit, I think.
Yeah. So over in the library, the twins are trying to convince Spike to take a pregnancy test or to go to a clinic, but she refuses and says if she's pregnant, her mom will kill her. Then they all give Shane a dirty look.
Shane gets like tons of camera time, but it's all just, "Aw, man, she's mad" faces.
I mean, he doesn't,
enjoy.
in his defense, he doesn't know what's going on. And like, it seems like he says later, we'll get to it, but they've been going steady. And then all of a sudden, like, Spike is just giving him dirty looks all the time.
And he says, "Why are you treating me like this?"
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and actually, I think maybe it's even later in the scene. So Shane follows Spike out of the library and asks what's going on. He says he thought they were going steady. Oh yeah, this is literally my next note. And then Spike pulls him aside and says, "Remember what happened at Lucy's party? I think I'm going to have a baby."
Okay.
And then Shane slowly walks away in silence.
First of all, Homer receding into the bushes .gif. But second of all, okay, so this was one of the things I really needed to go on kind of like an exploratory mission about, because I wanted to know if there was a reason that she says, "I'm going to have a baby" and not "I'm pregnant. Because I
Yeah.
wanted to know if the network had some kind of standards and practices. Like, you hear a lot about shows where, like, with Grey's Anatomy, I know that I've read a lot about how they were only allowed to say like penis or vagina like a certain number of times, and then they had to call it other stuff. And they had that
Other stuff.
with Dawson's Creek, like they weren't allowed to say masturbate in their pilot, so they called it walking the dog. So I basically wanted to know, yeah. She says like
Wow.
how often do you walk your dog? So I wanted to look up if CBC had the same kind of network standards where they weren't allowed to say maybe the word pregnant a lot. Basically, what I came up with starts way back in 1952. When I Love Lucy was on, they weren't allowed to say the word pregnant when Lucille Ball was pregnant. They had to say with child or having a baby. They could not use the actual word pregnant. And
What?
yeah,
She's literally married to her husband who plays her husband on the show.
I mean, they weren't even allowed to have a shared bed at that time on TV. So I guess that makes sense. But
Right.
basically, in the end, after a lot of reading about this, I couldn't find anything about CBC's standards for this stuff. So I'm chalking it up to maybe like a stylistic choice. Like they wanted to talk about maybe different ways that you can tell people about this sort of information. I'm not sure, but I would be very interested if there is anyone out there in the universe who knows if there was some kind of reason that they oscillated between saying pregnant and going to have a baby. I would really be interested to know about it.
It does seem like that may be part of what freaks Shane out, because pregnancy, it feels like there's still time to make a decision, but to just like directly mention the baby might be a little bit of why he's like, what? A baby?
Well, he's like,
it
this
does
is a
feel
joke,
like
right?
it makes you think differently than
This is a joke.
Yeah, like we had sex one time a month ago, and then to just mention like I'm gonna have a baby, like so maybe that's a little bit of what's going on. But yes, Spike is disappointed by his reaction of just slowly backing away from her.
In his defense, and I will not defend him again. This is it. This is the only time, I think.
He's gonna get himself canceled later on.
Dude, he's basically already canceled. But I will say, he is 14 years old. He probably hasn't even had like comprehensive sex education yet. Like they probably have just gone through like very basic stuff in like biology class. So he's probably just super freaked out and doesn't know what to do. Not that I think that it's okay for him to just be like, bye-bye, but I do kind of understand it a little bit.
Yeah.
It is not what I would do, but I feel like one can imagine.
Sure. Yes, we do have to, we're taking into consideration the fact that Spike is 14. We do also have to take into consideration that Shane is also 14 years old. And this is clearly not something that either of them were expecting or prepared for.
It's a really scary thing.
Yeah.
He gets a freebie. He you get to kind of have your initial reaction.
He didn't say something horrible. So perhaps he had nothing nice to say. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to say nothing and just slowly back away.
Let me have a little think on this.
Imagine if he had been like, how do you know it's mine?
Oh, well,
right?
Exactly. It could have been much worse.
Like, I feel like that's something that would get written in if this were airing now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, but back then, they wouldn't necessarily, I'm sure there was some kind of DNA test, but, we've lived through the Maury show where everyone knows about DNA tests now, and I feel like it's more, it's like more a part of our culture to like question women in that way.
The results are in and you are the father.
Yeah. Sorry, Shane.
And Shane just like knocks over a bunch of chairs and storms
he just
backstage.
slowly backs off the stage. he like walks to the back of the stage. All right, so at school, I wrote the next day. I don't know if this is later that day. Who knows what's going on? But later at school, Vula is showing everyone pictures of her new nephew, Gregory Alexander. One girl is really stoked on babies, but Lucy is basically like, babies suck, which is really funny.
I
Baby
love
hater queen.
Love Lucy just being like, are you kidding?
Yeah, she's very she's just kind of like, they're just like going to the bathroom all the time. You're always changing diapers. They wake up in the middle of the night. Like, she's kind of talking about Lucy apparently has had some kind of sex education, because she's kind of talking about like the realities of having a baby, while everyone else is just kind of gushing over how cute babies are. Which, understandable. It's like a bunch of like
Also
14-year-old girls like looking at photos of a baby.
Babies are cute.
Yeah, all of these things
Yeah.
can be true. Babies
It's
are
all
cute,
true.
but also babies do pee 12 times a day and never sleep. So
Yeah.
I feel
Oh, yeah,
like,
that's what she said. She says they pee like 12 times a day.
Yep. And and like Spike and Shane are kind of looking really somber during this conversation, and it's just like, soon it will be you, Spike, who is being peed on 12 times a day.
Yes, exactly. Because as usual, everyone is just kind of listening in to whatever conversation is happening. So yeah, Spike and Shane overhear this. And then Spike kind of looks at Shane, and he just like won't look at her. And Spike just looks so conflicted. She's like working through feelings, and she's not on the other side of anything. She's like really confused by this whole situation. So she is finally starting to like talk about it and getting kind of varying reactions. But yeah, she looks pretty upset here.
I mean, her acting in this scene is so good. Like, her nonverbal acting, she goes through so many different facial emotions. Like, she looks confused, she looks lonely, she looks worried, kind of all at once. And I love that, like, people around them, as Raditch is reading out this poem in class, like, people around them are noticing that she's having this moment, and you know that she and Shane are having a moment. I'm not sure that I really buy Joey's emotional intelligence in this scene.
Unbelievable.
Okay.
I don't buy it.
I think so. Joey, I think, is just like on the case. Like, yeah, he notices them looking at each other, and then like after class, he and Wheels follow Shane into the boys' bathroom, and they ask like, what happened at Lucy's party? Did they or didn't they? And Joey's actually been asking Shane this like since he saw them go into the room together. So yeah, Joey definitely is not emotionally intelligent, but he's sort of obsessed with like whether these two have had sex. And so I think he's just like, because of that interest, he's just like kind of like hyper aware of like how they're acting towards each other right now.
Also in this scene, Wheels and Joey have my collective looks of the week. Joey just has like a really great printed shirt with his jean jacket and his fedora over it. And then Wheels is wearing this like red, white, and blue shirt that just looks honestly so good.
It's like if a hockey jersey were also a polo?
It's like I think it's a rugby shirt, technically, maybe. I think it's rugby.
Okay, so it is sports related.
It is a sport.
Inspired.
Yeah. I doubt that Wheels is playing rugby.
Joey also, his denim jacket is like kind of cropped a little bit. Like I also love this look. Yeah.
It's so good.
And I like this hat better. I don't really like Joey in a beret, I've got to say.
No,
I prefer his fedora.
No one can match Beret Girl.
Oh, yeah,
Like
Beret
on that
Girl.
level?
Yeah, that's true. She was the only one that looked good in the beret. That's why she's Beret Girl.
It's a very difficult look to pull off. I personally cannot wear any hats. As previously discussed on this podcast, I look bad in all hats.
Same.
You look good in a hat. You look good in a hat.
Only some hats. I have like 2 hats.
Yeah, shush.
Okay.
Shush your beautiful face. You look good in a hat.
Okay, I'm the Joey Jeremiah of this podcast. I have the most extensive hat collection, which is like 2 to 3 hats. So Joey's asking like, did you or didn't you? And then Shane responds by saying, hey, what would you guys do if you got someone pregnant? It's not the guy's problem, right? And
Just
Joey's
totally
like,
hypothetically.
yeah, just totally. A friend of mine had a question, totally not me. And then Joey's like, it'd sort of be his baby too. So at least Joey is like I don't know. He has kind of a good response to this where he's like, no, dude, that is your problem. And Joey also says, like, is Spike pregnant? But Shane doesn't. Shane does his typical non-response.
Shane says, no, it's just a question. Because, like,
Oh, yeah.
obviously he's, like, asking for a friend who totally goes to another school. You wouldn't know him.
Yeah. And there was earlier, I didn't mention it, but I think earlier, Joey's asking him and Shane has more of a like, wouldn't you like to know kind of response. But yeah, now clearly his response has changed.
Not so smug now, buddy.
The fact that he thinks that this would only be Spike's problem is extremely problematic for me, because I just have a feeling that this whole thing wasn't really Spike's idea in the first place, but now somehow it's just her problem.
I mean, here's the thing. We haven't met Shane's parents yet, but when we do, you're gonna...
Things will start to make sense.
You're gonna piece together how he wound up with that idea.
Okay.
Wonderful. Can't wait.
Meeting Shane's parents gives you the map to find the treasure. You'll get there.
All right, so we'll put a pin in that until we can meet them.
And by the treasure, I mean like the fucking RNC.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we get some definite conservative Republican vibes from him later on.
Big Republican energy.
But first, we have something a little more posy, which is Melanie reading her horoscope to Kathleen.
She doesn't say what star sign she is, though, and that really bothers me.
Yeah, she's just kind of going over like what her reading was, and she says that she'll receive a surprise gift today. And Arthur overhears this and steals some flowers from their teacher's desk and tells Yick, girls like to get flowers. They think it's romantic or something.
Here, shove this in her face.
Yeah, so Yick tries to give Melanie the flowers by shoving them directly into her face.
Very bad delivery.
Yeah, this is not how you deliver flowers. Apparently, he needed more instruction on how the flowers would get from him to Melanie. But Melanie has extreme allergies and immediately starts sneezing uncontrollably until she ends up throwing her papers everywhere.
I'm sorry, but this is real. I have been given, as I was a teacher, and often I would be given flowers, and as soon as they were handed to me, I would just start sneezing. At best,
Really?
My nose would just, yeah.
No way.
I am extremely allergic. It maybe wouldn't be as like comedic as Melanie's reaction, but no, definitely like flowers of any kind aren't good. Keep them away.
All
I
right.
don't want them. Rather than it being a nice, lovely gesture of affection, I take it as a threat to my safety.
Well, okay, I was going to be an allergy truther, but I believe your experience, and now I think that this is a realistic scene.
Yeah, I was going to say, this does not track for me. Like, I've never seen, like, I grew up with a mom who was allergic to roses, and, like, I've never seen anyone just, like, sneeze that much.
Completely lose their shit.
Like, immediately upon receiving something.
Mary, remember you were teaching at one point and you got like a bouquet of flowers from like a student and you brought them home. I came home that day and I think I like opened up the door and I was just like, are there flowers in here? Like I stood at the front door. I did not enter the house. I was like, there's
Like,
a problem.
did you bring flowers into this house?
That is an exact quote, I'm sure.
That is not an exact quote.
That is
It
such
was
a bummer.
really sad, though. Then I had to try to find someone to take the flowers.
That's
It was like
honestly the
this-
biggest bummer, guys. Like, whenever I'm having a bad day, I love to buy myself a little bouquet of flowers.
Yeah, no, I felt for Melanie here.
My
Not in
compromise,
this house.
my compromise has been dried flowers, which don't seem to bother Paul. So
I love dried
bet.
flowers, and they last a very long time.
Look, if you murder the flowers slowly, then I have no problem with it.
as long as they've suffered.
But also, there are two broom heads in this scene. So Yick,
Ooh.
when he's marching over to Melanie, says he feels like a broom head.
Oh.
And then after this like comedic allergy reaction, Yick calls Arthur a broomhead because he is humiliated again.
Yeah.
I do also like that even though they're not like fighting over a girl, in some ways a girl is coming between them because they just keep like getting into arguments and calling each other broomheads.
Yeah, but that's like as far as it goes, which is really nice.
That's true. They're nice friends. That's as far as it needs to go. So the twins find Spike after school and they tell her that they're going to go to the clinic with her, but she says she's not going. So instead, they tell her that they'll buy her a test from the drugstore because she has to know for sure, and there's nothing to be embarrassed about. This is another very sweet scene between this friend group. They're just like waiting for her. So they clearly like talked about this at some point, and they're just like, Spike can't go through this alone. We're going to be there for her. Also because Spike is kind of refusing to take any actions to address the situation. But so they're also like, all right, so like we'll do it, which is great. And the fact that they tell her that there's no reason to be embarrassed. I loved this friendship moment.
Yeah, I did too. Did you guys ever know anybody who thought that they were pregnant but refused to take a pregnancy test?
No.
I don't think so.
I feel like I've just like been witness to this many times. And often it was like I'd have a friend whose like girlfriend was refusing to take a pregnancy test. And I think I'm much more aligned with the twins here because I was always just kind of like, just take a test and then you can figure out what you're going to do. But like I remember in college, I had a friend whose girlfriend for like 2 weeks was saying like, well, I might be pregnant, but wouldn't take a test. She like refused to take the test.
What the fuck?
Right? But yeah, I feel like I saw that come up a couple of times. Like I feel like I would see girls talking about maybe I'm pregnant and not taking the test. And it was always really confusing to me because I think I'm very kind of like motivated by like problem solving and like I'm solutions oriented. And so for me, I never really understood why someone wouldn't want to know what the situation was so they could then figure out what to do about it. But I remember just having to tell my friend, like, dude, you've got to give her time, but you've also really got to figure out if, you know, your girlfriend is pregnant.
Yeah.
But so I also really respect the twins in this scene because not only are they being super supportive, but they're also just like, we are here for you, but you really have to do this.
Yeah, I think for Spike, you know, taking a test or going to a clinic is acknowledging what's happening and it makes it real. And I think that she's still trying, you know, she's still hoping that if she just ignores it, it'll go away. And I think, unfortunately, that's what a lot of girls, like teenage girls who get pregnant, like they have the same thing. Like if I just ignore it, maybe it just won't go away. Or if I can just like pretend it's not happening. Because, you know, you'll read about girls who suddenly have a baby and they like didn't even know they were pregnant or something like that.
I mean, there's even other plot lines on Degrassi as we move forward in the years where someone thinks they're pregnant and it takes like an entire episode for them to take a test. Or there are pregnancy storylines where it's a surprise, but they're really far along, or you know what I mean? It happens.
I think also, you know, if this is the first time Spike has even had sex, maybe she's never even been to a gynecologist. Like, she doesn't know what going to the clinic actually means or how invasive that might be or whatever. So she's just kind of still in denial about everything. And I honestly feel like part of it is because she hasn't talked to her mom yet. She's sort of, like I said, she's sort of starting to tell, you know, Shane and her friends, but she still hasn't talked to her mom, and that might be a little bit why she hasn't really done anything to really like address it yet, because it seems like her and her mom are supposed to be pretty close. Back to Yick, and he's finally just gonna ask Melanie out, and he's basically like, hey, to make up for before, would you want to like go out on Saturday morning? And Melanie is like so stoked. She like turns around and looks at Kathleen and she's like smiling and she's like a date? Yeah, so we don't really get much more out of this scene. We'll see their date later. But yeah, basically Yick is finally just direct and asks her, and Melanie has just been like dying for somebody to ask her on a date. She wanted a hickey basically just so she could go on dates. Like that was her whole logic earlier.
Really putting the cart before the horse there. But also like
I don't think Yick will be giving anyone a hickey.
No, but Yick's
No.
date is, he asked if she wants to go skating together on Saturday morning, which I think is just like a very wholesome, sweet idea. Because first of all, it means that if you're having fun, you've got the rest of the day and maybe you could do something else. Or it's also just like a very nice activity, like going skating.
So next, the twins and Spike are at the drugstore looking at tests. They're kind of like reading the different packages. LD is getting very excited. I don't have a lot else to say here. If you want to take over, I'm assuming you're going to talk about how insane these pregnancy tests look. They are not the pregnancy tests that we all have are so familiar with from TV and like whatever, the little that looks like a little thermometer. They're like massive.
Okay, I have so much to tell you about at-home pregnancy tests. Because what kind of kicked it all off was when they hold one up and they're like, this one takes 2 hours, and then they're like, this one takes an hour.
Right.
And I was just like, hold on, excuse me, what? so I decided to read a little bit, and now I'm going to tell you about the history of the at-home pregnancy test. So before we had at-home pregnancy tests, and by the way, I'm starting this way out. Like there were some like old practices where like women would pee in a field, and like if barley grew, you were having a boy, and if wheat grew, you were having a girl. But I'm gonna start us off.
That would be a long-term pregnancy test.
Yeah.
Barley grows.
Yeah, ancient Egypt
By
apparently had a gestation of like years. So I'm going to start us in the 40s just to like fast forward through many of these kind of old like agrarian practices. So in the 1940s, the way that they tested women for pregnancy, or like the way that scientists were trying to develop tests, I shouldn't say like no one was doing this as like a standard, like you go to a hospital and this is what they do. But like scientists in labs were taking women's urine and injecting it into a rabbit. And then if the rabbit went into heat, then the woman was pregnant. And they were mostly testing for like a very specific hormone, like the HCG hormone. But like all the rabbits just died.
Oh no.
Yeah,
God.
like
sorry, but you're gonna have a dead rabbit.
Yeah, congratulations, it's a dead rabbit. So imagine that like gender reveal party, by the way. You just like open a box and a dead rabbit is just in it.
You pull it out of a hat and it's just a dead rabbit.
Exactly.
It's getting dark. Okay.
So like the rabbit died was a phrase that like became code for a positive pregnancy, but like all of the rabbits died, so it really wasn't a super like accurate test. And then there was also frog testing, and this one I love. They basically did the same thing that they did with the rabbits, but North American scientists imported all of these frogs from Africa, and a bunch of the frogs escaped from the lab, and they like carried a fungus which killed off just a ton of indigenous frogs in North America and like apparently other amphibians. So that's just like
Sure.
Classic American tale.
Yeah, very cool. So the first patent for an at-home pregnancy test was filed in 1969. Nice. By Margaret Crane. So she was basically hired by this like company, I think it was called Organon, and they hired her to develop a cosmetics line. And while she was touring the lab, she noticed all these like hanging test tubes and was just kind of like, what's going on there? And they were like, we're testing for pregnancy. And it was this weird kind of thing where like if it had a certain reaction, there was something at the bottom of the test tube. And so she was kind of like, I think I can do something with this. So I don't know if she ever developed her cosmetics line, but she did go home and develop an at-home pregnancy test from a plastic paper clip holder, a mirror, a test tube, and a dropper. So her at-home pregnancy kit was called the Predictor, and I've put a picture of it in our notes, and I'm going to put it up on our Instagram and Twitter because I just feel like everyone has to see this. It just looks like a science fair project. So definitely like check out our Instagram and Twitter if you want to see some examples of early home pregnancy tests. But
Vintage.
It does look like a science experiment.
There are multiple boxes, there are mirrors, there are many things. So before the tests had stuff like a line or a plus sign, they had stuff like a baby's face or a wiggling sperm as like the indicator of like pregnancy. But they kind of started to realize that like cheerful icons were not always appreciated because not everyone taking a pregnancy test wanted to be pregnant. And so that's when they kind of started to adjust the symbols. And then in 1976, the early pregnancy test, EPT, which I think, if I remember correctly, EPT still exists, but I thought it was the error-proof test. I didn't know it was the early pregnancy test. But so the EPT was marketed for $10, which of course I had to look this up, adjusted for inflation is about $45 today. But it took 2 hours. It came with a vial of purified water, an eyedropper, a test tube, and an assortment of compounds, including sheep's blood. No idea what that was for. But that's what was going on. And
it's almost like a meal delivery kit, but like all the ingredients are like horrifying.
Yeah, exactly. It's like HelloFresh, but
and
actually
a pinch of sheep's blood.
Exactly. It kind of sounds like what you would maybe get now if you were like witch in a box.
Yeah.
You get like a little tarot deck, some sheep's blood, a test tube, a mirror.
Witch subscription service.
Yes.
Ooh.
Right. So yeah, like basically home pregnancy tests used to rely on the HCG hormone, but like it apparently was really difficult to differentiate between other hormones. And so the tests were just super inaccurate. And now they rely on like some enzyme, which is easier to detect. And that was when they started making it kind of like, you can get this in 5 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever. So basically that's just a little bit about the home pregnancy test. But yeah, early pregnancy tests were like an hour or 2 hours. And it wasn't until a lot later when they started detecting for this other enzyme.
And the box that she ends up with, or that they're holding, does look a little bit similar to the box that you're gonna include in the that people can find on social media.
Yeah,
like
it's huge.
It seems like it's probably about that complicated.
I hope that you enjoyed my like extensive research into the home pregnancy test.
Oh, I just love that it was a woman that was like, women might want this information.
And actually, what was really interesting was like they didn't have any kind of like cheery way to market it. There was no like, because basically like a lot of these brands didn't really want to be putting like the word urine out there. Like there was
urine
no like
analysis.
Yeah, no one was like going to be excited by that. So they marketed it more as kind of like a women's rights sort of thing where it was like, find this out in the comfort of your own home. You don't have to go to the doctor. Like you deserve to be able to know this information yourself on your own time and like have your own moment with it. And I don't know, they marketed it more for like the progressive woman.
Right.
So yeah, anyway, I think that like in this scene where they're picking out these tests, like the twins are being super supportive here. Again, they're not judging Spike. Like they just are trying to help her to understand what's going on. And I think that this is a really great scene for that. Because I do feel like pharmacy scenes on teen shows are often used for like either dramatic effect or slapstick effect. And
like
I really like
Joey yelling out to Steph's mom when he and Wheels are looking at condoms.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, it's like for comedy. But yeah, they're just helping her read through the instructions and like to choose like the best one. And Spike does when they all leave the drugstore, she thanks them for coming with her.
They're such good friends.
So we're getting to the big scene now. So it's dark as Spike heads home. When she gets there, her mom is making dinner. She asks where she was. Spike says she's not hungry, and she's gonna go to bed. She's tired, not feeling well. But her mom says she needs some good hot food, and she'll feel a whole lot better.
She's not wrong.
She's not wrong. But then in typical Degrassi fashion, Spike is hiding the pregnancy test suspiciously behind her back.
Like she's carrying a bag with her. Why doesn't she put it in the bag?
Yeah, it's the same as when Arthur is holding the like porn like VHS behind his back. He also has a bag. Like they could easily hide it, but you know, it might be a similar thing of like maybe she kind of wants to get caught. She just doesn't know how to have this conversation with her mom. But yes, so she, of course, like her mom is really suspicious about what's going on. Her mom asks like what she has, and Spike just like turns and like runs up the stairs. Her mom follows her. Spike is freaking out in her bedroom. She's just kind of yelling all kinds of random stuff about how she doesn't want to live here anymore, and just kind of your standard teen like I'm mad at you moment. And then her mom, you know, kind of starts to leave the room, and then Spike just like throws the pregnancy test at her. So she picks it up, and like her mom looks kind of stunned. And she's kind of just like, you didn't. But then she just like goes over to her and she like comforts her on her bed as she's crying. And she just asks like, you know, why she didn't tell her. It's best for her to know everything. I was crying. I thought this was like a really good scene between them. It was like very emotional. And like, it was like, I thought it was like pretty well acted, you know, for Degrassi.
I think that it's actually pretty realistic in terms of like Spike really freaking out, projecting a lot of her fears at her mom, taking it out on her mom, and then, you know, her mom having a more favorable reaction than maybe Spike was imagining she would. You know, like her mom doesn't.
She's disappointed like for a minute, but then she's just like there to comfort her.
Exactly. Like she's not yelling at her. She's not telling her she's disappointed in her. You know, she's not yelling like you're too young. Like she's just like, all right, I've been here.
Yeah.
Right. And she's just like, I need to know what's going on. Basically, like, so I can help you. Like, not so I can judge you or criticize you. It's just so I can help you.
It's cool that they give her such a huge turnaround from like we're introduced to her mom and she seems like an asshole, basically. And then within like one episode, she apologizes for that and is like unbelievably like chill and helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. Good for her.
And it just, I mean, you know, like this is a really volatile time between parents and like their kids, like their teenage years. And so I think it is an accurate representation of like, even if you are close with your parents, you might still have these big fights, or like sometimes like a teenager might react. So, you know, Spike is being kind of mean to her mom in this moment, but it's just because she's really freaked out. And like, that's why when Raditch is like scolding kids and whatever, you know, the way that some of the other adults talk to teens, it's like you really need to talk to them to figure out like what's going on, because sometimes the way that they're reacting is about something like entirely different than, you know, whatever it seems like they're talking about.
God, absolutely. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So in the thank you. So in the next scene, Spike and her mom are sitting in the car outside of the doctor's office. So apparently, after all of this, we've learned about pregnancy tests. She doesn't even take the at-home pregnancy test. Her mom kind of says like, she's kind of like, Spike is sort of like, I didn't want to like go to the doctor, but her mom's just like, I really like our doctor, and if you are pregnant, you're going to end up seeing them anyway. So she's basically just like, you should like go to the doctor.
Also, that 1987 pregnancy test was still looking for that HCG hormone, man. It wasn't that.
Right, so it wouldn't have
that
even
accurate.
been very accurate. Yeah, maybe her mom's even like, that's just not accurate. Like, just go to the doctor. So Spike says that she's sorry. She just really wanted Shane to like her. And her mom says, she wishes that she had waited until she was older, because when you're ready, sex can be wonderful. So her mom is even like being pretty sex positive, and she's kind of just like, I don't want you to have a negative experience with sex. It can be really great, but I just like 14 is like, to her mom, she's like, 14 is pretty young. I wish you had waited, but her mom's being cool. Shane shows up, and her mom is like, I don't know why you told him. Her mom is immediately like not into Shane though. Like
she's just like, ugh.
Hey man,
Yeah.
that's the dude that got your daughter pregnant. So I feel like it's kind of understandable. But yeah, Spike says if she's pregnant, it's gonna be his baby too. And then she's gonna go in to get the results, and her mom kind of asks if she wants her to go in too, but Spike wants to go alone if that's okay. And her mom says, whatever happens, she's behind her.
I love that. I love that
it's
as her
so
parting, phrase to her.
Yeah. And then Spike gets out and kind of like she meets up with Shane, and then they go in together. So after all of that, we get to see the ice skating date.
Adorable.
So cute. I also did take note. It's not my look of the week, but I did say that I love Melanie's outfit here. I feel like it's very
yes.
2020. I love her orangey brown scarf. I love her jacket. I feel like I know a lot of people who have that same jacket.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what a good date look.
It's also a very good look. I also considered it for my look of the week. And yeah, they're just being really cute. I think they're like kind of holding hands, skating around together. Melanie like falls down. They're laughing. It's all very cute.
Adorable.
And then back to
reality.
Back to reality. Spike and Shane walk out of the doctor's office holding hands, and Spike says,
Mom, I'm pregnant.
And then they hug.
Ba, ba, ba.
And I guess, should we talk about, okay, we haven't really talked about how the A plot and the B plot like go together, but they're clearly meant to like somehow be related. So like we see Yick and Melanie going on this like really wholesome date, while Spike is kind of dealing with like the consequences of like, a date that maybe went further than she was ready for. It doesn't really sound like, because she also says she didn't like it very much.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what 14-year-old boy is good at sex?
Right.
Like, there's no way that he was paying attention to her needs whatsoever.
No. But yeah, so I don't know if we're supposed to read too much, or if it's just generally an episode about like relationships like at this age, but we're getting like two very different portrayals of dating at this age. So like a daytime like skate date versus like like an evening party, like
Party
going
hookup.
into a bedroom party hookup, like yeah.
Totally. No, that's how I saw it. I saw it as kind of like looking at the different ways that middle schoolers might be dating.
Yeah. All right, so at school the next day, Spike is sitting alone in the drug stairwell from previous episodes. Shane finds her there, and he says, "You don't want me to marry you, do you?" And Spike just ignores his dumbass comment, and she just starts saying how, there's people who can't have babies, but she doesn't want to get all big and stuff, so what if she didn't have the baby? And then Shane says some bullshit about how she can't kill a baby.
What if I didn't have the baby?
Get an abortion? Can't kill a baby.
It's not a baby, it's only a fetus.
It's alive, it's got rights.
But what about my rights? I don't want to be a mother.
I don't want to be a father, but an abortion.
Idiot.
Fucking wrap your shit up, bro. Won't have to have that conversation.
Damn.
Yeah. And then she says it was just a little mistake, and Shane is like, it was sort of a big mistake. And then Spike gives him a look, and we end with the freeze frame on her face.
The true look of the week
Oh my
comes from
God.
Spike.
Honestly, Shane is just the worst. Like, he is just the worst. He is not supportive. He's not reassuring. At no point does he say, like, we're in this together.
Or are you okay? Are you scared?
How you
was the
feel?
appointment? How do you feel? I'm sorry. Nothing like that.
Hate it, honestly.
He's basically just like, what am I going to have to do? Except when he starts, judging out the options that she lays out. And so, okay, on one hand, like, Spike has been thinking about this a little longer than he has. So she's kind of running through, like, it's almost like stream of consciousness when she's just like, well, some people can't have babies. So that's kind of a reference to adoption. She's like, but I don't want to get all big and stuff. So even if you like, if you go the adoption route, you still have to be pregnant and have the baby at 14. So then she's like, what if I just didn't have the baby? And like, yeah, she's just kind of going through the options, and all that Shane offers is just like judgment.
Yeah.
Basically. And how does it affect him?
Yeah, he brings nothing to
Do
the
I
table.
have to marry you?
Like, well, what if you fucking
Don't worry,
do,
Shane.
dude?
Nobody wants that.
Yeah, it's true. Nobody wants to marry Shane.
She's like, I really wish you wouldn't.
I love that she doesn't even dignify that with a response.
No, she totally ignores him.
But it's also like, well,
perfect.
what if that is what she wants? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like he
It's
asks
not
it
even
in
what
such a
she's
way.
thinking about.
No, but like he's not coming to the table with any like productive conversation. He's just, oh God, he's just the worst.
Because right. He's not even like, well, what if we raise the baby together? Would you want to get married?
Yeah, exactly. That would be the
he's
way.
expecting her to just have to know the decision. Like, basically, like, you're not going to make me marry you now. So, like, I don't know. Just his whole attitude is very just like, how does this affect me?
Yep.
Without really caring for, like, Spike's feelings at all. Even though she's the one who is physically going through this experience.
Which also, like, really, really explains why the sex was bad. Like, he only cares about himself. He is not attentive to Spike's needs. Of course, she did not think the sex was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so Shane is canceled. We hate him.
All my friends hate Shane.
He stays canceled, by the way. I don't.
It's not going to get any better for Shane.
I can't.
And we haven't seen much of him prior to this episode, right? Isn't he kind
He
of
had one
around
scene.
He's been around.
Yeah.
the Stephanie, like all the way with Stephanie K
Yeah.
stuff outside of the bathroom? I think he's sort of around for that, which
Yeah.
tracks.
And he also, I think he's with Joey when Joey shoves Arthur in a locker. Like, he's been like lurking. Oh, he was also like, Wheels is gonna make it with Stephanie when they're like
Yeah.
like he's the
Right.
he's been a gossip so far. He's been like part of whatever was going on, but he hasn't been the main attraction until now.
Right. And I guess that's the same with Spike. So this is sort of like, even though we haven't been focusing on these characters, they've had their own kind of relationships and like experiences and stuff going on.
Yeah, we don't know how long they've been going steady either. That's what, because like
Right.
for two people who are supposed to be going steady and who have had sex, they don't really seem like they, I don't know, like they know
We
each other
only
that
really
well.
saw them together at the party.
Yeah. So it could have even just been like on Monday, it's like, ooh, Shane likes Spike. And then on Friday, he's like, do you want to go to the party with me and go steady?
Right. Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
it's middle school, dude. Like the timelines do not make sense.
Yeah.
It's like people in 8th grade are like, my ex-boyfriend, and what they mean is we went to the mall once.
Right. Gotta love a mall date.
Can't relate.
well, this sucks, but I related to Kathleen just in the way that she was like, hickeys, gross. Because I'm sorry, none of this was hitting for me as far as like a middle school problem, which, that's my like privilege or like whatever, but I did not. Yeah, I think I already mentioned like none of this would have been on my radar. Even with Yick's B plot of like asking a girl out, like that dude is brave, because that was not me at all. Like none of this was relatable. The only person that said anything remotely relatable was Kathleen being grossed out by the mere idea, which I'm not proud of.
Kathleen does also, when Yick finally asks Melanie out on the date, she just kind of like goes off to give them their space. So she's not that bad in this episode.
She just straight up ghosts the conversation. Yeah. She's just like, oh, this is a date thing? I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Hey man, even a stop clock is right twice a day.
Exactly.
Hell yeah.
So I related to Melanie's reading of her horoscope. Like I felt it in my soul. But I think overall in this episode, I am collectively the twins, because I too love to support my pals. I love to debunk pseudoscience. And I've convinced a lot of paranoid people to take a pregnancy test. So I think I'm
that twin Gemini energy.
Oof. No.
I don't really have a good one for this episode. I mostly just related to Lucy's anti-baby stance when she's just talking about how shitty it probably is to have a newborn baby around.
She's not wrong.
She's not wrong. Only facts from Lucy. Friends, this was a big episode. What did we learn?
For me, I learned a lot from Yick as far as how much of a badass he was, the way he was persistent but not overbearing in attempting to ask out Melanie helped me remember and learn that in any situation, it's okay to fuck up a bunch of times. If you keep trying and if you're chill, you'll find your moment.
I think that this episode is about confronting the things that we're afraid of. So Yick learns that instead of scheming and trying to passively aggressively get Melanie to like him, being direct and honest and asking her out is probably his best move. And then Spike also reckons with facing her fear, not just of being pregnant, but also of talking to her mom about it. So in the end, her mom is really supportive of her and she wants to be there for her. I think that it's good to face your fears when you're ready, and the episode teaches us that having a good support system will get us through the tough times.
I think we learned that sometimes the fear of other people's reactions is the greatest barrier to accepting the truth about a situation. So Spike's initial fears all center around how she thinks her mom, her friends, and Shane will react to the possibility of her being pregnant. She withdraws from everyone around her because she doesn't feel like she can tell anyone what's going on, and because she can't talk about it with the people that she's close to, she also can't accept it herself. But the people around her care about her, and they notice that she's not being herself. When she starts to open up and let other people in, she can finally express her feelings and accept what's happening, and she can start to make decisions about what she wants to do with her life. So she has options and she has support. She just had to give her friends and her mom the chance to react.
Just as a reminder, if you want to check out any of our looks of the week or anything else that we have to say or pontificate on, you can check out our Twitter or our Instagram. We are at I'm Sorry Okay Pod, which is okay spelled OKAY.
So that's it for It's Late. Next week we'll be watching Parents' Night.